it's going to really be all that long of a meeting. I think we can get to it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I'm just setting up the live stream on YouTube. 1 second. It takes a while.
It's going to really be all that long of a meeting. I think we can get to it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
No one
It
else.
could be helpful and just tell us before the meeting closes who attended.
Right, it says it's streaming live.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm calling the Economic Development Committee meeting for today, Friday, January 21st at 8:17 to order. I'm just going to, take a roll call vote of those people who are here in attendance as I see them on the screen. Chris Robbins.
Yes.
Julie Connolly.
Yep.
Matt Berger.
Yes.
John Wood.
Yes.
Alan Belniak.
Yes. You got it. You got it.
Okay. It's kind of one of those performance things. I'm like, I got to do it correct.
All right.
Don't ever have me say Marika when I've had like not enough sleep. So with calling the agenda to order, I just wanted to. I also saw Michael Moorhead, who just signed on as well. We just did a roll call, Michael. And yeah, he's here.
Here.
So I just wanted to start on the reports. I did want to let the committee know that select board member Andrew Dennington, who is our liaison with the select board, gave me a call, said he wanted to get together to just meet me because I think I became chair during the pandemic, and the lack of opportunity and relationship building that's engendered by face-to-face meetings has kind of been hurt a little bit by the pandemic. So we had some coffee. We talked about some of the initiatives for the EDC. Some of them were vague, like we wanted to see more business recruitment. We wanted to see more growth. Some of the things were a little bit more specific, such as how Route 9 could be used as a, let's call it energizer for our economic development, particularly some of those areas that are empty right now, like the CAS building. He reiterated that the select board is interested in business development, that the idea of business visitation was a good thing, and that if we did want more help, that we should make every effort to ask for it with our members there. It's a very good conversation. We talked about a lot of stuff. In fact, we went to a local Southborough business that hopefully with the meals tax just meant that a little bit more money went into the local coffers. So I just want to let the EDC know that I had that coffee and that he was interested in continuing that conversation. So with that as the report, I think I'm going to turn it over to Marika now for the coordinator's report.
Can't hear you.
Muted, sorry. Just a quick update on the expression of interest submission for the one-stop grant funding. And just as a reminder, this would be for a zoning review for Route 9 and possible zoning update. So I submitted the expression of interest on December 20th to the administrator's office for submission with a request that they submit it the sooner the better, and maybe if they wanted to ask other departments and committees if they had any applications. I don't believe there were any other applications, so this is the only one for now. However, it's been kind of sitting and not being submitted because now there's a discussion, I believe, going on that they would first want to have input from all other boards and committees before they submitted. And I try to explain that an early submission would be beneficial to the town because it will give the state time to give us feedback for a better application, as well as give us time to apply that feedback to a better final application. And I suggested we could submit it and at the same time reach out to all boards and committees for their input and work together on a final application. And I believe Lisa, I don't know what the situation is right now, so it's maybe the committee can ponder what to do next.
Thanks, Marika. I will also say that I had seen an email from Lisa Bracchio about holding off on the submission of the expression of interest. I had written back to her, making the point that earlier is always better. This expression of interest is not a mandate that we follow through with the application. The expression of interest doesn't have to go into the full details that a full application might. And that the state actually wants to provide feedback to the expression of interest with things that could make a stronger application. If we have the meeting with all of our boards and DPW and take that time waiting for the local feedback, and then we send it to the state is still going to want us to adjust things based upon their feedback. So it might make sense to have feedback from the state on what they want to see and what would make a stronger application before talking with everyone who's going to be working with us on that application. I have not heard back from her yet, but I will say, as someone who does work in the public sphere, there are a limited number of eyes that take a look at all of those expressions of interest. As you wait, there are 351 cities and towns who can also submit expressions of interest. With limited eyes and lots of applications, the further you wait, the less focus might appear on each expression of interest. So that was some of the logic that I sent to Lisa to encourage her to submit sooner. I'm not sure what other options there are for us. They have the sign-in for the application, but with other feedback from this committee, maybe we can try to speed things up just a little. So that's, as the chair, that's one of the things that Marika and I had spoken about and that I tried to do in talking with Lisa.
I think that makes sense. And I think there's got to be a way, because I do understand, obviously, we want to make sure that we're getting buy-in from other boards and committees and public input, and that's obviously important. But it does make sense to try to run two tracks simultaneously, because it's not the final application. So maybe even, whereas Andrew's our liaison, maybe even just a phone call to him explaining, because I think when you say it, it makes perfect sense. Sometimes it's harder to come through on an email, especially when it's email, 700 in your inbox. So maybe just a phone call saying, can we do it this way? Or maybe have a very limited review of, to get some preliminary feedback internally, sort of find a way to compromise on it, where maybe a couple representatives, we hand it off to a few people from a few key committees, give them a couple of days to look at it and provide any feedback, knowing that this is by no means final, and that, there's still going to be much more amendments and changes and modifications from both the state and from other boards and committees when they give their input, and it makes sense to kind of do them all together.
And does the state expect that the application that they receive is not going to be changed, other than the changes that they suggest that be made upon with their feedback?
So what happens with the expression of interest is you identify your community, your plan, and what you want to accomplish. It doesn't go into the details of all of those things that you're going to do. But when you're talking about taking a look at the Route 9 corridor, someone looking at it might say, well, you said you're going to do X, but it also makes sense if you do Y and Z as well. And so it's that particular feedback where if they come back and say, hey, listen, your zoning's a little bit antiquated, you really need to focus on sewer as opposed to water based upon what we know of the area. That's the type of feedback where they might provide. Expression of interest isn't even a full application. It's just saying that you want to apply for the grant.
Yeah. Okay. So understanding that, I mean, all I'm trying to point out, I guess, is that just make sure we can at least address the concern that we're going to submit one thing, get feedback from the state, consult our other boards in town, and then all of a sudden it changes fundamentally and we're back to where we started. So that's the risk, I guess. And we just need to mitigate and manage that somehow.
No, that is a very good point. And John, I see your hand raised. The one thing that's also interesting, which, you know, it's things being what they are, you don't need to submit an expression of interest to submit an application. So by doing the expression of interest, you actually raise your standing up because you've let the state know that this is what you want to do and this is what you want to accomplish. So it's one of those things where we're trying to be proactive and get positive and thoughtful feedback to have the best application possible.
So maybe then the point is, you know, keep it as high level and generic as possible, because all we're basically doing is getting on their radar and really little more.
That's which is a very good point, and which is why delay in submission of that expression of interest doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's at least my opinion. And John, I'd seen your hand raised.
Yeah. So moving forward on this. So right now we're saying, okay, it's only an expression of interest. The selectmen are saying they want more information. So since they're the one that control it, and there's a couple of meetings coming up, I believe Capital's having one on Monday. There wasn't, being part of the last grant, there wasn't all that much interest in other committees involved because we waited for weeks and weeks and weeks for input on the last one and then had a meeting, and there wasn't all that much. Should we just reach out? I think Shopsy might be having one soon. The stakeholders in this from last time was us, Shopsy, and Capital, and that was pretty much it, right, Marika? Am I missing anybody?
And planning, I guess, as well, right?
Okay, so we can reach out to Shopsy and planning, because I think they're both having meetings for the next week. Just shoot them an email saying, hey, we want to put the expression of interest, time's the essence. Do you have any changes or anything else that you wanted to put into this? I don't think they're going to, because nobody really had that much input of, oh, we'd like to see this, this, and this. And that was pretty much it. So I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of changes, and maybe that'll appease the selectmen enough to say, oh, okay, you did reach out. There's no changes. That way, you know, we're not spinning our wheels. We're not causing any conflict. Maybe that's a good compromise. And I know Capital's meeting Monday. I think planning might be meeting Monday as well. Not sure, you know, even just send the chairs an email to say, hey, can you put this on your agenda real quick and just ask if anybody has anything they want to change on this expression of interest. We need to hear this back by blah, blah, blah. Would that be something that might work? Maybe not. That way, selectmen, I don't know when they meet again, probably not till, I think somebody said February 1st, which seems an awful long way away. But at least we could reach out to the chair, our liaison, and say, hey, we've reached out to the committees that had input before, you know, they have no changes. Can we just send this off because time's key, blah, blah, and all the points that you just made. And that way we've said we've reached out, you know, nobody's given us anything else. And that way we can get it in. Just my thought.
Yeah, I suppose we can. Marika, do you have the emails for the chairs of each of Shopsy and planning?
Yeah, I do. And I will definitely do that. My only, I mean, I guess that's my personal frustration, is that as this is a town submission of a, you know, of a grant, a potential grant project, the I mean, I requested the town administrator to basically inform all other departments and committees of this grant opportunity through the One Stop. There seems to be some kind of disconnect with the whole process. And because of that, we've lost like 1 month of our time. I mean, we are trying to meet certain deadlines and to be proactive and be early with our, with our work. Then to have it sit there because no one really knows what to do is just, to me, unacceptable. I mean, it's been sitting there since December 20th. So to sit there for 3 weeks, then to kind of someone make a comment, and then, kind of go a completely different route is amazing to me. I don't know why the administrator's office couldn't have sent it out to everyone. I mean, again, is this an EDC project? I think that's another thing. I mean, this Route 9, all these Route 9 grant projects and initiatives that we're starting, on the one hand, we want to be promoting this and pushing this, but we are constantly told that you can't do it this way, you have to do it that way, you have to wait 2 weeks, we have to discuss it. And in that way, I don't think that's effective and beneficial to the town. So I'll definitely, I can send this out to all the boards and committees and hope that they get a response. And then I guess it's up to...
I wouldn't even send it to all of them. I would just send it to the ones that were involved last time, because it got sent out and nobody gave any thoughts on it before.
So
I don't think anything's going to change.
Yeah,
I would just do the ones
Yeah.
that actually came. Remember when we had the meeting over it and we Shopsy came, Marty, I think.
Yeah,
someone
no, the
from
other thing, this
Capital.
is not a new proposal. I mean,
No,
this was last year.
That's
we
why I say
submitted the
just
same
reach out to
project.
see if anybody had the same stakeholders, reach out to them, see if they have any changes. That's it.
Yes.
Not, hey, have meetings on it, see if you want to come up with anything,
Fine.
maybe if they want
Yeah.
to, or just, do you have anything further to add? Do you think? That way at least we can, hopefully that's enough to say, hey, it's just an expression. We can always change this, but at least we've
Absolutely.
actually touched bases. I'll try to go to the Capitol meeting on Monday if they're having one. I don't know if they could have me in, or I'll try to go to anything, but I think that way at least we've reached out. Trying to get anybody to put in for it before or ask the questions, it took a long time and a lot of hand-holding to get people to have meetings to get it last time. Is that correct, Marika? So I don't think that many committees are going to have many things to change. I think they're going to probably want the same things, which is already in them. We've just tweaked it a little bit. So that's my
Yeah,
thought.
so let me send it out to the chairs of those committees, and then get their feedback, and then hopefully the town will submit it.
Well, and also have us set a deadline. Like, this
Yeah.
can't be something that just kind of is out there. Alan, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just going to echo that. Two comments. One, I know you've already done a great job of letting people know like time is of the essence and those kinds of things, but I wonder if putting the dates, the actual written out dates in the message, like saying it needs to be in by this date and then work backwards. So we should have our thoughts coordinated by this date, so we can send in by this date, and just lay out that timeline so it's very specific. Even though it's frankly abundantly clear, through conversation, I wonder if seeing it in text would help. And then the other piece I have is just a comment. It's such a shame because one of the running complaints among all of the committees and boards in town is that we never have enough opportunities for monies to do things. And here's an opportunity sitting in our laps, and we're going to potentially watch it go right by us because of inaction collectively. So it would be really great if we get even just a bite at the apple. So.
Totally agree.
Agreed.
Well said.
Is there a member of the select board sitting in on this meeting?
No,
No, it's just us today.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, John, I saw your hand kind of go up a little bit.
Yeah. We're meeting aren't we going to be on the selectmen's agenda upcoming? Or if we're not, we should. I mean, this is something that like we should have a meeting to find out what their plans are, what they'd like to see on Route 9, what the process of going through these grants, what our frustrations are, what their frustrations are. I mean, actually be on the agenda to just talk policy on how they want to handle this and have planning. Somebody, I know I'm preaching to the choir, and I know I've been saying this since I've been on this board. Every other town that has successful economic growth is a collaborative, constant effort between administration, their EDC, and their planning board. Ours feels like it's a grind to get through all these, and we're getting closer. I think we're doing a heck of a lot better. But I think if we could all get on the same page and just say, hey, this is what we want as a town. We know we need commercial revenue on Route 9. We know that that's going to be the least bought place by townspeople. These are our hurdles. If we can all come together, there's a lot of money, both federal and state, out there that we're going to miss on. You know, if we could just have this discussion, you know, in person or by Zoom, where sort of face to face. But I really think we need to have a meeting with them and just say, hey, this is, what do you want from us? This is what we need. This is what we saw work. This is what we saw didn't work with grants. Out of anybody, I think you have the most experience and knowledge on how state grants out of anybody in this town right now, Rob, and followed by Marika, because you guys have been into it so much and you know what's out there and what we need to do. So I'm not saying that they don't, but we need to educate them on a process, and we need to get a process. If nobody else is going to set it, we need to make it and say, what do you think? They can tweak it afterwards. But I just think that's something, because we keep going after more and more grants, which I think is awesome. But I think we need to have some type of policy on how it works. And be
Well,
consistent.
and without sounding like I'm chafing as much underneath some of the rules from the Board of Selectmen, in other communities, planners, economic development people apply for grants without running it up the flagpole. They talk to the town administrator and they say, we have the opportunity to get money. Can we apply? And the town manager says, write the grant, see if we can get something, and then we will plan on how to spend that money based upon your vision after we get it. And that makes speed of applications that much better, because each of those applications is built upon something: the housing production plan, the master plan, former reports that were done on Route 9 that might only be 9 years old, but have to be updated, but probably hit upon a lot of the same subjects. I think one of the things that we're running into, and this leads into the energy and environmental affairs, is that there is a whole bunch of fingers in the pie that we want to make from an economic development perspective that are slowing things down and causing hurdles that we don't need. So I think, Marika, if you can make sure that the chairs of the organizations that participated in the past know that we have a date. And I think really, based upon what the select board said, going in by February 1st to them to say, we've done outreach to all the chairs, we have the expression of interest written, we want it submitted tomorrow. I think giving February 1st as a deadline for feedback would be beneficial. So does anyone else have anything on that subject? Okay, seeing none, the shop SOBO 2020.
Yeah, just really quickly that all the business certificates have been updated in our database. I'm working with Paul Sabelli's office to look at all the personal property businesses. And once I have that, I'll start formatting for a new Shop SOBO directory for 2022. So that's ongoing. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Next up on the agenda, the discussion, the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs Planning Assistance Grant Project Management.
So maybe if I can just start with a quick comment. So this was put on the Board of Selectmen's agenda, I think by Mark Purple, because to be honest, I don't really know why, but I listened to the meeting, and honestly, I was a little bit surprised because I think they were misunderstanding the whole grant setup. Because in their discussion, they were of the understanding that the project manager would be paid for with grant money. So that was their main concern, is that whatever money we had to pay a project manager would not be able to be used for the actual wastewater engineering studies, and that's incorrect. And I was actually surprised that Mr. Mark Purple didn't correct them before they put it on the on the agenda, because that was the main concern. And I know we send out some information to Board of Selectmen to explain exactly how the setup is. So again, I think on February 1st, which is the next Board of Selectmen meeting, they would want the EDC to discuss this further. And the only concern I have is, again, with timeliness. We received the go-ahead from the state on January 4th. And now it's almost February 4th. By the time we would have a decision on how to proceed with actually starting the work. So it's 5 months left of fiscal year 2022, which I think, with these grant things, there needs to be some more urgency if the town feels that it's important, and not have all these, discussions that are being postponed. So that was my.
Excellent. Alan, I see your hand raised.
Thank you. It's unfortunate, and that's about as far as I'll go with my description of my take on the situation, that there's a misunderstanding at the Board of Selectmen and the administrator level. To underscore Marika's urgency point, I'm wondering if, and I'm not trying to make work at anyone, but to make that February 1st meeting, the invitation that we have from the Board of Selectmen for you, Rob, for the EDC's point of view, to make that as effective and efficient as possible. I'm wondering if we watch the video, look at the transcript or what have you, the piece where that was discussed, and try to break down what was stated and what was maybe stated as either incorrect or misunderstood, and correct it and send that in advance to the Board of Selectmen, so it's in their packet so they can review it. So then when you're there to discuss it, they already have it, rather than reacting to you talking about it live right then and there. Again, I'm not trying to make work. I'm just, again, trying to underscore, and I agree with wholeheartedly the sense of urgency. We've already lost a month if we go there on February 1st, and then they have to think about it again for 2 more weeks. And so that was just a thought.
No, a very good thought, because I think we can pull some of that stuff together, because I think urgency is one thing, and with urgency and time, there has to be some element of project management for a large grant like this that cannot fall onto Marika's shoulders. And so the fact that the EDC has money in our budget for contract services is something that we should take advantage of, because there are other initiatives that Marika and the EDC want to undertake, which can't be done if all of the focus is on this town project. This is not necessarily an EDC project, this is a town project. So I think one of the things that we want to have them understand is that there needs to be some help on the project management side, or something's going to need to change. So I think pulling that stuff together, and Marika, why don't I spend some time on that this weekend, and I'll shoot you something on Monday, and I'll make a note to myself to do it, so that we can address the EEA project management, as well as the new grants that we're applying for. Are there any other comments and ideas from the committee?
I would just let me try and just clarify this. I think that's what Marika summed up in her email in the letter, right, to Mark Purple. Whether or not that makes its way to the BOS, I don't know, but I think that's kind of what your intent was, right, Marika?
Yep, I think Michael, I think a lot of what Marika had put together is going to be cribbed a little bit for what's going to end up with the Board of Select, the Select Board.
I just wanted to add maybe maybe that we also need to make it more clear that this EEA grant wastewater study is part of a much bigger initiative for Route 9. And that's why the one-stop application for a zoning review would be part of that. Similarly to like how we operate with the downtown initiative. I mean, it's not just the zoning or just the wastewater or just beautification or connectivity. I mean, it's all tied together. So that they understand that, we can't just be focusing on wastewater. I mean, it's great we have this grant. The town needs to, figure out how to project manage this. At the same time, we're going to go after money to do a zoning review. At the same time, we're doing business visitations to keep the conversation going with, the owners of the buildings or the real estate, as well as the businesses on what else can be done. And then, like we spoke about in the past, we need to look at traffic patterns and all these things. So it's bigger than just this one EEA grant. And maybe that's not really understood well at this point. So.
Not to sound like a not to sound like a smart aleck, but isn't that all written down in the master plan? Isn't all that we're discussing things that have been laid out in a master plan that guides the community, and that all of these inclusive things are already sitting in a binder at town hall that people should understand?
Yeah, it's not the EDC that's come up with all these things. We just copy it from the master plan. And I think that gives us the direction that we're going in. But it's just telling it 10 times, I guess.
Yeah, that's like I said, I bit of a smart aleck on saying that. Okay, so I think the plan of action for the EEA grant and project management is to develop a concept paper, get it to the select board, and make sure we address some of their concerns in our discussion on February 1st when we're invited there. Any other comments on that? Oh, Julie?
Yeah, sorry. I think that's on the right track, because as much as we've been focused on it, we've seen sort of a pattern. With boards and committees, oftentimes they're just sort of doing the emergency that's right in front of them, and it's harder to pull back and look at a bigger picture project. And I think, I'm sure everybody's heard of these different grants from, Marika's done a great job of putting information out there, but maybe sort of a 30,000 feet up presentation on how this works and why we need to do A to get to B and how they tie together, and sort of putting the pieces together at a very high level so that people understand. I think we almost need to spoon feed it, and maybe even doing some public outreach on that too, because that's what we're hearing a lot of people saying, well, EDC hasn't done anything about Route 9. But these are the things that we're doing. Here's why, and here are the steps we need to take to get there. I think that would, just very high level clarification, sort of roadmap on, what the issues are, what these grants could provide, and then kind of a timeline for doing that. Understanding that it's sort of a moving target, and that, we're still trying to hone in on what the issues are and what the grant money could do to help solve some of the problems.
Very good point. John, your hand is raised.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. We've spent a lot of time on who's going to, the contract and the management of this grant. Do you think at some point we might have a meeting where we can talk what we want to use the grant for, the information we'd like to get out of that study? So that way, once we have a contract with a project manager, we can tell them what we want to find out of this, what we're looking for. Because, Route 9, now we know that Deer Island's not accepting any more waste. So tying it to sewerage or using a lot of the last information, it's outdated. We're not going to need that. We're going to need more like what we could do instead, where it could go instead. that kind of information. I think it would be nice to be able to parlay that to whoever is going to be doing this wastewater study for us on Route 9. We should probably lay out a plan on what we'd like to, the information we want out of it. That's all. Instead of, they may come back with, oh, hey, we just found out that, that you can't tie into sewerage because we know that. There's information we already know that's not going to be in some of the old reports, because at that time in the old reports 9 years ago, maybe Deer Island was taking one. That's all. So maybe we could have that sometime on an agenda on what we'd like.
No,
to see.
that's a very good point. So I think to that, that's something we're actually going to have to spend a lot of time. So Marika, maybe next meeting that we have coming up in February, we dedicate a big amount of time for the questions. Like, one of the questions that I would have would be, would the people taking a look at water and wastewater on Route 9 say, well, you can't do Framingham or you can't do Westboro. Does it have to be town owned? And as John said, if Deer Island is full, we probably can't go either of those two directions. So what does that then mean for us? So I suppose there are lots of questions and things that we would want to get answers to. So if we could put that as a big agenda item on next meeting's agenda, that would be really useful.
Yeah. Last question on that. So once we hire somebody, not as a contract manager, once we hire somebody to do this study, right? Could it be in their purview to let us know if there's any other state or federal funding so that the town wouldn't be on the hook for any of this money? Is that something we could ask them? Hey, once you find this out, can you look in to see if there's any other grant money somewhere? So, Marika, who's already overwhelmed with a lot of stuff, doesn't have to go looking for it, or other people. If we have somebody that says, hey, we're doing a wastewater study for you, we know that this federal funding is available, because there's going to be billions of dollars of infrastructure money, billions. Somebody's got to know where it is and how we can go after it, because other towns I've seen are getting a couple, $2-3 million grants to tie into a project of a few other $1 million grants that they got for wastewater and things. So there's got to be money out there so the town's not on the hook.
Well, I definitely think that, and I do know that there are some engineering firms that, when they identify those potential funding sources, will actually help and work with the town on crafting those grant responses. So it's kind of business development 101 on their side. So I definitely think that that's something that we can do. And Alan,
I concur.
Yep. So I think that's a good idea, and I think that's something that we should do. Chris, I see your hand.
Oh, I'm just checking in on the agenda because I know a couple of people have to leave early, and if there are any votes we need to take. So.
Well, the next one is the ARPA funding opportunities, where we would potentially have a vote. I think, John, you're our representative.
Yeah, we had our first ARPA meeting on Wednesday. We barely had a quorum, so we didn't elect any officers or any of that things yet. We're meeting again on next Thursday at 7:30. So we were told that if we have anything that we want to bring to town meeting, we have to have that by 3/1, and just a regular report by 5/16 to BOS. So, Mike, I just want to bring it up real quick. I asked Marika to keep this as a standing agenda item moving forward because it's going to be moving quickly. I'd like to have the EDC. I just sent Marika the guidelines that I just got from Mark yesterday to the rest of the board on what ARPA money can be used for. If you guys can take a quick look at it and see if there's anything that you as the EDC, we as the EDC would be interested in funding. Things like that could potentially be used for, or even other grant money. Downtown, I know that they're going to be tearing up Main Street. I know we've talked about tapping into Tony Kwan's wastewater. It would be nice to get a quote from somebody or pricing from Karen Galligan or DPW or somebody to find out about how much it would cost to lay an inlet and an outlet under the road while it's torn apart, whether it's capped for now, it'll still be a lot cheaper to do it now if it has to go into a railroad track while they're already tearing it up than 50 years from now trying to get permission to do it. I don't know if it's something that could be used for the ARPA funds. The National Grid piece of property behind the pizza place we've talked about, you know, whether the town ever wants to use that as a wastewater site or not, that's moot. It would be great for parking. It would be great for a pocket parking. It would be great to have a picnic area, open space. I just think if that, you know, things like that, if that's something that this committee would be interested in, you know, we could put it together on a list. I know that Ms. Houlihan on planning is on it, and she is going to be sending out some type of a form or a process to rate and rank the different requests through the towns that we'll be going through moving forward. So if we could have that in, you know, within the next couple of weeks, because we're going to be reaching, the ARPA committee is going to be reaching out to all the boards and committees for input on, and the town as well as what they would like to see it to go through. And then it'll be ranked and go from there. So those were like my couple of thoughts. I haven't really read into what it can go through yet, because there's so much you can use this money for, and it's very broad, and it's also very narrow. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. So again, I sent Marika the information. Hopefully she'll send it out, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, Julie, I know you have to leave, and yeah.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, John, I know we had a presentation, and this is one of those tangential economic development things, but we had a presentation from the Trails Committee about trails connection to the downtown. Can ARPA funds be used on trail development or things like that to make it easier for people to walk to our downtown?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe it can. Speaking of that, I'm glad you brought that up. One of my good friends is on the Trails Committee, and they had asked us to send a letter of support for the thing, and they're trying to get everything in by next Friday. And he's asked if we need to go to a vote. I think we already voted on our support. So if we could get that to them by next week. Thank you for bringing that up, because I would have forgotten, and he would have been all over me all this weekend. So thank you. But yes, it could.
No, it's tangential. It's also short money. Laying pipe for sewer and water underneath a railroad track is much more expensive than some trail work. However, what we're trying to do on the EDC is increase the quality of life for all residents, and access to physical activity and easier access to the downtown for pedestrians is something that can definitely help. So that's why I was wondering about the ARPA funding. And I know we've lost Julie, but if we can see what those things are and maybe give it some thought, and you know, I suppose there's no dumb idea right now. Well, I suppose there are. Like, we don't need a monorail in town, but I think if we can see what those options are, that would be pretty good. So admin, I don't think we're taking a vote on that, correct, Marika?
No, I don't think so for now. I think.
Okay, excellent. Administrative business.
No, nothing. That was my the minutes have all been taken care of. And the next meeting we'll have January 6th minutes to be approved. So.
Okay, fabulous. I do see a hand raised by Claire Reynolds. Claire?
Thanks, guys. Just as an administrative item, speaking as your recording clerk here, Rob, as part of the discussion that you had with the emails going back and forth with you and Lisa, would you send me a copy of that? Because that needs to actually be included with the minutes when they're posted.
Oh, sure. Let me do that right now.
No rush.
Yep. Let's see. Yeah, I can do that afterwards, but I'll remember to send that to you. Okay. Next up on the agenda, any unfinished business?
You know, I feel like there is, but I can't think of what it is right now.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm forgetting something. That's what happens when you get old.
yeah. One of those things about unfinished business, to go off on a tangent. All business seems unfinished. This EEA grant, our wastewater study for the downtown, it's the zoning change, the Bemis property down there, what's happening on Route 9. Unfinished business seems so vague that even when you have those accomplishments, it never ends up finishing. So that's my tangent on that, but I don't see anything else.
I thought of mine.
Oh, good. See?
Did I saw it, it's nothing. I saw the job postings on my Southborough. And there was nothing about like Zoomies or any of that stuff that I know are hurting for help. Should we reach out to the blog and say, hey, you know, you might want to talk to these smaller local businesses that are looking for these things? I know we talked about reaching out to the schools and things, but the other night I looked like Zoomies was closed both Friday and Saturday. I don't know. Like I said, I know that I'm constantly getting emails from Pizzaville because I order from there online a lot saying, hey, we're hiring. You know, there's lots of smaller places that need help that aren't getting posted. I mean, I don't know how many kids read the blogs, but I know a lot of parents do, and they can say, hey, you need a job to start making some money, you know? So maybe these smaller ones, we could ask her to, you know, look at these things as well. Cause I don't think I don't know where they're posted. I just see signs saying we're hiring in all of their windows. So if we could help those people out as well, that was.
Okay, excellent. Alan?
Yeah, and maybe Chris next. Sorry, I saw your hand, Chris. I know we talked about that last meeting. I can't remember where we landed on that. I think we talked about it collectively, and Matt, I think you even said this seems like a gift wrap package for the high school, which I totally agree. Like whether it's an affinity group or something. Where do we land on like trying to, I guess, either make that happen, or was there an action on someone's plate?
Yeah, I'm supposed to reach out to the. I guess I found out there is a business group with the high school, DECA.
Nice.
So I can reach out to them as well as the school superintendent or whoever, and kind of have a talk with them and see if they can put up some notices.
Cool.
Ongoing. I think Chris wants to talk.
Chris?
Yeah, good morning. Look, I remember the big news is Amazon is coming to Westboro. I think it's Amazon, building the great warehouse in Westboro. And Lisa Braccio in one of her meetings said, maybe there's a way to get mitigation money for all the new traffic we're going to get or things like that. I'm going to just leave that with us, but here's a town that's got one of the biggest companies in the world stepping into our neighborhood, and all things I think should be collaborative, but it's something to think about. The second thing is the CAS building is no longer the CAS building. It's been bought by a local developer. His name is David Ferris. The good news about that, a few years ago, he found another building that was not being occupied. And he bought that, refurbed it, and got it full, or I think. So that's good news. I mean, Dave Ferris grew up with my son here right on Parkerville Road. So that's good news. We have a local who owns that building, is I'm sure going to try to do something, because that CAS was owned by a real estate outfit in New York City that doesn't have the insight that somebody like David Ferris does. The other thing is simply Ted's Towing. They're always looking for people to hire. So anyways, those are my thoughts for the moment.
Getting touching on your CAS building thing, I believe that now that building will be filled, once it's filled, it'll put our vacancy rate down to the teens, under the 20%, which is less than any of the surrounding towns, because the CAS building was one of our biggest properties, commercial properties, and being empty, it really put our vacancy rate up over 30%, which was higher than the towns around us. So the fact that something's going in there, that should put us down in the teens. My calculations were roughly about 13 to 15%, which is excellent, but we can't rest on our laurels because I've been saying this a long time too. I really think the footprint of office buildings is going to change drastically. And some of these, I won't come, I know a lot of people are looking for A space or B plus space. I don't know how much C or even B or C plus space we have in town, but it wouldn't be bad to put an office share, kind of, see if anybody would be interested in that, such as they have on Hayden Row in Hopkinton, where smaller business, you can rent an office as a common conference room that you can reserve and things like that. I don't know, some of these smaller spaces we have, we could reach out to them and talk to that, but might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, I'd like to, if I may. The other thing that is wonderful news is Bill DiPietri owns 11 buildings in town with retail, manufacturing, and apartments. Guess what? His fill is 15%. I mean, not vacant. I mean, he's got one of the highest capacity fill than anybody. And one of the reasons is he's local, and they have a person who's signed full-time to work with all the tenants to get the needs fulfilled that they want. So he's an extraordinary, and he pays, guess what, guys? He's the highest taxpayer in town. He pays over $1 million a year in taxes. I'm serious about this. We ought to be singling him out and presenting him with an award. The Board of Selectmen ought to have a special meeting with him. He's a local guy. He gives generously to the community. He ought to get a recognition award from maybe the EDC and the Board of Selectmen for his outstanding contribution to this community. Because if you add up all the taxes he's paid over $10 million in taxes over the last several years. So let's find a way to honor and recognize special people like him.
It's Chris, to your point, maybe there is an opportunity on our agendas going forward for us as a committee to have a line item, recognition. And within that agenda, we say, hey, this week we're going to talk about Bill DiPietri. And next week, we're going to talk about the owner of the Southborough House of Pizza. And we give a little bit of a historic background because, quite honestly, I don't know everything about what Bill DiPietri does, nor do I know the story of the Southborough House of Pizza. And if we spend 2 to 3 minutes at the end of every meeting talking about some of those businesses in town as an acknowledgement of what we have. We've got a great sushi place in town. Tommaso is a shining star on Route 9. Wouldn't it be great as part of our standing agenda to recognize some of those businesses and talk about them in the context of how they fit into the larger plan identified in the master plan that we spoke about here, about how all of those pieces fit together and how the timeline for our development aligns with our business visits and things like that. So maybe, Chris, to your point, maybe it's when we start talking about those businesses at our meeting, it gives us the leverage to then go to the Board of Selectmen and have them step up and say something good about the businesses and recognize people like Bill DiPietri. So
Well said. Well said.
Thank you. Any new business? Okay, seeing no new business, it appears like our next meeting, sorry, the computer's do we have any public comment?
Can you tell us who's here?
There's
No one is, just us.
Just us.
Yay.
Well, there's everyone out there on the
YouTube.
web who's choosing to watch us on YouTube or go back in time and watch this in the future, but no one from the public. So other business that may properly come. I think the next meeting is going to be Thursday, February 3rd at 7:30. I think, yes, Chris?
Yeah, we passed this wonderful bylaw. Has anybody reached out to Peter Bemis to find out what steps he's going to take to move his project forward?
I think we can do that. I think if you would like, maybe not next meeting, but the meeting after, we can invite Peter to the EDC and have him kind of give an overview and have us get a chance to find out from him what more he might need or what he might want to do.
Great idea.
So we'll invite him, but I do think to John's point, there are two things. One, figuring out what we want this EEA grant, the questions we want it to answer, and talk about what we want to see come out of it, as well as the ARPA funding as the two things. So next meeting on Thursday, February 3rd at 7:30. I don't see anyone from the public, no hands raised. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a
Second.
second?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm gonna go as I see them. Matt,
Yes. Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes, great meeting.
John, thank you.
Aye.
Yeah, Rob as well. We have a unanimous vote to adjourn. Thank you, everyone. Very good discussion. We've got a lot of things to do. I will see everyone later.
See you. Thank you.
Right.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I heard somebody trying to say something. Never mind.
Hi.
I just stopped the recording, that's all.
Oh.
See you.